play on the field, the courts, and the ice is just one part of sports. Behind every game are the people hard at work so we can enjoy the action. They're the owners, administrators, agents, broadcasters, and promoters who bring the games to life. Meet them when you go behind the game with Patrick Klinger and Bill Robertson. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Game. I'm Patrick Klinger. Great to be with you again this month. To my left is a man whose golf swing is so buttery, they call him Land O'Lakes. Bill Robertson. Bill, good to see you.
Good to see you, Patrick. Thanks, everyone. Our special guest today is a father, a broadcaster, a philanthropist, an all-around great athlete. From St. Louis, Missouri, Darrell Thompson. Welcome to the show, Darrell.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you here, and we'll have some fun, and I know our viewers will get to know you and what you're up to these days. But I think more than anything, you had such a successful career as an athlete coming out of the University of Minnesota, but you've made a bigger impact off the field, in my mind, as you did on the field. You did both really well. Tell us what you've been doing since you've been retired.
Well, I run a youth program, and the name of the organization I'm the head of is called Boulder Options. So we're an activity-based mentoring program. We've been around for 26 years. I've been around for 24 of those. Since I got done playing ball, I was a volunteer there. I was an advocate, and it grew to the point where I started working there part-time. It grew to a full-time position, and I thought I'd be happy when we got to 100 kids, and now we do almost 100 new kids just in our mentoring program every year, and we have an alumni, and we speak, and we do other components. So now we engage over 2,000 kids a year in all the programming that we have under our umbrella at Boulder Options.
That's great.
Darrell, do you get as much joy out of working at Boulder Options as you did running the football?
No, but I get as much from my heart. I do. You know, football was an outlet for me, a physical outlet. I love football. I still love football. But my heart grows, and I feel good about what I do every day at Boulder Options. We had a young lady come in just 2 days ago with her baby. She graduated from our program like 10 or 11 years ago in St. Paul. She brought her baby and Louise, and she was proud to, show me the baby, show our alumni coordinator the baby, take a picture, kind of laugh and joke. So when you think about the long-term impact of an organization and the relationships that are built and what Boulder Options has been able to accomplish over the last 26 years, that's what gets me up and gets me excited and keeps me coming to work every day.
You've done a great job with that, for sure, growing that Boulder Options.
Thank you.
It's unbelievable. You've been a radio commentator for the University of Minnesota, both on WCCO and KFAN since 1998. Two-part question. Do you consider yourself a homer, or do you consider yourself having neutrality when you're analyzing a game as the broadcaster, as the analyst in the broadcast, and then want to get your opinion on how you think Gopher football will do this year?
That's a pretty easy question. I think I'm a tiny bit of a homer in that I'm not going to focus on pointing out things that are mistakes that a young man made on our team or even the other team that much. My focus is on kind of what's going on, what happened, why this guy did this, why he did that, or why I think he might have made the decision that he made, and then just like kind of moving on. Because I mean, there's enough to talk about. I'm not trying to find a mistake or some missed block or missed tackle. So, he missed him, but, Patrick made the tackle. Do I need to point out that Bill missed the tackle? Probably not.
Correct.
Everyone, if someone whiffs on the quarterback, that kind of gets me every once in a while. I'm like, break down and make the tackle. The quarterback does this, and the guy just said, no. You still gotta if you just wrap him up and bring him down, that's much more important than the pump fake.
Understand.
Yeah.
How about second part of that? Since you're doing the games, just give us your prediction on Gopher football this year from what you've seen.
I'm excited. There is more. This is my 23rd year broadcasting. I feel like we have more depth than we've ever had in my broadcast career. We've had tremendous receivers, Ron Johnson, Eric Decker, a handful of other guys of that caliber. With the receiving core we have right now, there's as good a receiving core, a better receiving core we've ever had The group of running backs is strong. We have very good quarterbacks. Antoine Winfield comes back on defense. Thomas Barber kind of anchors the middle of that defense. Carter Coughlin at the defensive end spot. The Boye Mafe kid from Hopkins, I think he's going to be a really splash surprise player. He's 260 pounds. He's like 6'4". He looks like he could already play for a professional football team. So I think there's people around. I mean, the 400-pound tackle on offense, the Daniel Falele. He's another kid that kind of they put him out there last year, and he did it. You know, so the true freshman. You're like, oh, he's 400 pounds. He's fat. He's not. He's 6'9", 200. He's 6'9", 400 pounds, and he's supposed to be 6'9", 400 pounds. So he's there, and he can block people. He can move. He can get downfield. He'll probably score 1 or 2 touchdowns. They got like some little fridge packages or something like that. So I'm as excited for this season as any, and I think we could get to maybe 9 wins this year. So I'm kind of jazzed.
Be good.
The University of Minnesota has new training facilities, Athletes Village. It's something that they certainly didn't have when you were playing.
Yeah.
How big of a difference does that make in terms of recruiting, in terms of preparation for a game, in terms of winning?
It starts, number one, your point about recruiting is where it starts. You have all the splash and all these wonderful sayings, and then you bring someone in your house, and you're just not as nice as somebody else's house. But now you bring someone in your house, you're like, well, we got that. We got a training facility here. We got nutrition. We got that taken care of. We have an academic excellence center here, and we have Fortune 500 community. So now you're coming to the dance, and you've got the same deck of cards that Ohio State has, that Michigan has, or maybe even better than some of those places, because there's a lot of places where there's tremendous football where there isn't anything. There's really nothing in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've been there a whole bunch of times, and there's not much there, but they do kick butt in football. You know, and the same with Oklahoma and some other places. So having a metropolitan area that can support it, and having the facility here is making, and I think you see it in recruiting. You know, you give Coach Mason, he kind of paid his dues at the Metrodome, and Coach Kill, and now Coach Fleck is able to benefit from a lot of the seeds that those guys planted. It's good stuff. It'll make a difference.
Yeah, it's impressive. It is an impressive facility.
It is, and their whole athletic complex now is so fantastic. Having walked through that last year, I think it's a game changer for all of Gopher athletics, not just football.
You're right. Yeah, it's interesting because I was talking to some of the academic folks over there, and they're saying now that they built it for their kids that they thought that needed help, and not everybody uses it. So they actually need to expand some parts of it. They said, they're like, well, I don't want to go to the library. Why would I want it when I have all this wonderful, beautiful stuff here? I want to be in the lab and in the conference room or in the study tables, or where they can plug their computer in, so it's a great thing to have, and it's made a big difference in recruiting, and that just moves right on down the line, and it moves to the field and to the graduation, where young men are graduating at a very, very high rate as well.
You picked the University of Minnesota coming out of Rochester John Marshall High School. You were recruited by several Big Ten schools. We talked a little bit off air about Nebraska and other Big Ten schools, and then it was UCLA, Oklahoma State were all interested in you. Understanding that you stayed in state, why did you pick at the time the University of Minnesota?
Well, interestingly, it wasn't because I felt like I could play right away, which I ended up playing right away. It was because I felt like it was the best choice for me. I didn't really know what was going to happen when I got to school. So I said, if I get hurt the first day and I get stuck in that place, where do I want to be stuck at? Do I want to be stuck in Madison, Wisconsin, Los Angeles, Lincoln, Nebraska, Iowa, or Iowa City? I said, for me, that was part of it, and then it just kind of came down to the visit and the time that I had on the visit, and also wanting to be in a community where I felt like I might want to be when I was done playing football, and it happened to work out really, really well here at the University of Minnesota, and then being drafted by the Packers. But I always lived here, even when I was a Packer.
Darrell, coming out of John Marshall High School in Rochester, you were All-State in track. You were McDonald's All-American in basketball. You were incredibly gifted in football. Did you ever consider pursuing a sport other than football?
Well, I love basketball. Probably was a little too short to be kind of like a big time basketball player. But I did consider track a little bit. I liked track, and I liked the individuality of track, but I never worked on it very hard. So I just kind of ran it. Like I just showed up when track came, and I ran. I did the workouts, but I didn't run it very much in off season. I was playing basketball, and I was kind of focused on football. So I pretty much just ran track for like about 5 weeks. And that's not really enough so I had a little taste, and I'd go to track meets in college. Sometimes I'd be like, I think I could maybe run with those guys, but that was the only thing. And then there's not really like a lot of money in track either. So I think football was the right choice for me. It paid for my education, gave me an opportunity to play professionally. So it was the right choice, certainly.
How about college football? How has it changed since you were a player in the early 90s to where it is today for our audience that may not know all the intricacies of recruiting and other things? But from your perspective, still being involved in college football, I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes since you were an athlete at the University of Minnesota.
Just about everything has changed. You know, even to how you can recruit, the amount of contact that you can have with the player, to probably the main thing that's changed is the protection of the players. And I think it's really, really important. I mean, recruiting is still kind of recruiting. They're going to tell you that you're the greatest, and you get here, and then you find out you're not the greatest. But the safety of the player, I think, is improved tremendously. We practiced 3 times a day during spring ball and during fall camp when I was in college. Now, if you practice and have contact, you have to have the next day off. So there's their ice bath. The guys leave the field. They get like a little, here, you should drink this because it's going to help your body recover. And I'm like, oh, so we got water. There were Gatorade cups inside the locker room. I was like, oh, this is cool. I got a Gatorade cup, and I'll drink this Gatorade. And Gatorade's really not even that great for you, but at least do something. So the nutrition's improved, the safety of the players, the protocol around concussions and those types of things are much, much better. And then also the academics. You know, they're tracking how you, not only if you went to class, which is important, hopefully everyone's going to class, but are you on track to graduate? So the on-field conditions are safer, and the commitment to academics is more true than it was during I think we always cared about academics, but it was always kind of like, yeah, are you going to class? Billy, I'm going to class. Are you eligible? Yeah. Now they're like, oh no, are you going to graduate? And what are you going to graduate with? And how can I help you graduate? And I want you to graduate. So it's things have improved.
It's good.
You were a first-round draft choice of the Green Bay Packers. That must have been a surreal experience. And did you know you were going to Green Bay, or did that come as a surprise to you the day you were drafted?
I didn't know I was going to Green Bay. I mean, people come and they work you out, and they said, hey, if you're available, then we'd be excited. And then actually the Chiefs called me like about an hour earlier and said, hey, get ready. And then they didn't take me. They took someone else. So, you don't know exactly. So when the Packers called, and then Lindy and Fonte called me and said, how would you like to be a Green Bay Packer? I said, I'd love to be a Green Bay Packer. So, I mean, to get drafted and to play, it really is surreal, because I played against, Studwell and Refrigerator Perry, and against Joe Montana, and against Jerry Rice and Ronnie Lott and Darren Nelson. So all these guys that I've been watching, and even Joey Browner, in town hanging out with a little bit. I wasn't hanging out with them, but I was around them every once in a while at a restaurant or a bar. Also now I'm like on the field with them. It was intimidating and surreal at first. Then you got to realize that you're there like for a reason. So you got to buckle up, let's play, let's learn, let me get better at my craft, because these guys are better than everyone I played against in college.
Well, Green Bay is the smallest market in the NFL, but it probably has the most loyal fan base. I'm sure you felt that. And then on top of that, you played with, if I'm not mistaken, Brett Favre on your team,
Yep.
Reggie White,
Yes.
and Sterling Sharp.
Yeah.
Those are 3 huge names in the world of the NFL, and in Green Bay. They're legends, probably like you are too. Tell me about all that, and how that was surreal, and how was it dealing with them versus the college game?
It was different, and Sterling, the greatest receiver, his brother went in the Hall of Fame. They made a kind of eloquent comment that he's the second best receiver in the house. If Sterling had not hurt his neck, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. Sterling was a completely dominant force on the field and off the field. One of the smartest people I've ever been around. So Brett Favre was kind of early, and he was loosey-goosey, and we all were. I'm only I think a year older than Brett. So, and Sterling was a leader, and then Reggie White was a tremendous human being, a great leader, a role model, on the field, off the field, in the church, everywhere, and a force. I've never seen a force like that on the football field. One that was, he was he was almost like a superhero. His strength was ungodly. Like it was like he could do things that people shouldn't be able to do. Literally, I mean, he would throw people he would get a guy and he'd actually throw them, or he'd lift people up and toss them down. Sometimes I was like, he just lifted up and tossed down a person who weighs 280 pounds, is trying to block him, and it's not a drill. He says he's like, so don't, I learned in practice. I never mess with Reggie. I mean, plus I was like 220 pounds. What am I going to do? He's 300 pounds. But every once in a while, somebody would try to get after him, and he's like, you don't really want to do that. You don't want to upset. You don't want to upset. Don't poke the bear. And that was one person that you did not want to get upset during practice.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Bill mentioned the fact that Green Bay is the smallest market in the league. There's no market in the league that loves their football team more than Green Bay. So what were some of the advantages and disadvantages of playing in a market like Green Bay?
Well, I think the main advantage is that there's a tremendous history of the team having success in Green Bay. So people are a little bit more forgiving there when the team struggles, because they've been through, they've had Bart Starr and the Brett, and now they've had Aaron Rodgers. So there's been like some highs, but they've had the high highs, and they've won. Winning 13 championships is something no other organization's been able to do. So you have that, and you also have the part that is a little bit tough that you have to get used to, is you're in a little bit of a fishbowl. So that when you're a player, that people are going to know that you're a player. You're not just going to blend in. You're not going to say, well, this guy, he's a Gopher, could be Gopher, could be a big guy, he could be a Viking, he could be an ex-Viking, could be an ex-Gopher, could just be a big person. There in Green Bay, if you're a big guy, most likely you're a Packer. So there's a little bit of the fishbowl, but people are used to it. It's one thing you just kind of get used to. Every once in a while, someone might be a little bit like my point, but in general, they're like, you're going to see a player at Chipotle or at the steak joint or at McDonald's or at Kmart or at Shopko or whatever that place might be. So you just get used to it.
What's so special about, in your opinion, Lambeau Field? What makes it so unique?
I think number one, that it's an outside stadium, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So I'm not going to put a dome over it or anything. The history, and then the fans. They care, and the Go Pack Go cheer, the tailgating, the ice bowl, all those things for whatever level of player. Like I'd say I was a regular player for the Packers. I came and I went, didn't win a Super Bowl, but you would think I did a lot sometimes. I go back over and people, oh my God, here we are. I'm like, yeah, thank you. yeah, this is awesome. I feel great. I'm pumped out my chest. And I was a regular player. So, the Brett Favres and Bart Starrs and Reggie Whites and Sterling Sharps. It's a special place. Everything kind of stops a little bit for when the Packers play on Sunday in Wisconsin, and that's a special thing.
I do believe it's a bucket list event for any sports fan that's never been to Lambeau Field. I've had the privilege to go once for a game in December, and they got beaten at the end of regulation in about 10 degrees above zero, but people were having such a good time, and all they care about is the Green Bay Packers. They don't care about the other games.
I went for my first time as a fan last year. It's hard for me to go as a broadcaster to get to a game. They have alumni and one or two other, and I had some friends that were going and said, hey, we're going to go fly over that morning. So I went over, I tailgated, I went to the game, sat there as a fan, and it was heartwarming and odd even that people still recognize me. I'm like, oh, it's been 25 years. Like, hey, no. I was like, yeah, I'm here. I'm just watching. Yeah, I just watching the game. So my wife and I went to the game, had a blast. It was awesome. And I'm able to finally cross it off my bucket list after 20 plus years.
It's really the cathedral of the NFL.
No question.
Really?
Yeah.
There has been a lot of litigation between the NFL and former players in the last couple of years, mainly over the impact that the game has had on those former players. Do you think the league should be doing more to take care of players like you and others who played the game and maybe are suffering some physical side effects of that since your playing days?
I think so, and I think they're trying. I think it's hard, and you try to, number one, the player safety has gotten a lot better. I still watch a lot of football, and I see that player safety has gotten to be at a very, very high level of concussions and injuries and all those types of things. And I feel like the next step is for the former players that have played the game, for them to realize if you look at the pension for the Major League Baseball, if you look at the pension for Major League or for the NBA, it's a significantly better pension than what an NFL player would get. And I feel like they should be at least comparable on the same scale. So that to me is one of the big issues, and I think you can do more. Certainly, hopefully the concussion litigation goes forward, and players get compensated for the damage that was done, because it is. I see it in a lot of my peers and friends, and certainly older and some younger players that have been traumatically impacted by the amount of trauma that's been done to their bodies, and not just to the head. I mean, see a lot of guys that are limping, and I'm one of them. I got a little bit. Once I get going, I'm walking pretty good, but it still takes like a second to kind of get everything lined up, going the right direction.
In saying that, do you have concerns about your sons playing football at a high level?
I have one son that plays football. He walked on University of Minnesota about a year ago, and I have concern for him playing, but I've watched the game get safer, and actually 3 of our 4 kids have had concussions. I had a daughter have a concussion playing volleyball, a son have a concussion playing basketball, and one son have a concussion playing football. And they were all sat out for a significant amount of time. They did a baseline check, they did a check to come back. Okay, now you're ready to come back, and then you come with limited practice, and then, okay, now you're back to full speed. Versus in my era, you drink some water, they give you 2 fingers, and they say, how many fingers I'm holding up? I'm holding up 2 fingers, how many? You say 2, and they said, okay, looks like you're ready to go. So, and I went back out there many times with the 2-finger check, and do you know the plays? What are you doing? 290Z in. I said, well, I run a wide route. They go, oh, yeah, you're good to go. It's like, okay. So I can jog around the sideline. I passed the test because I answered 1 question. So it's much better now. So yeah, I'm just concerned, like in general. Like I'm concerned when my son drives our vehicle, down the driveway, but not as concerned as I'd be as if the game was same as it was when I was playing.
Yeah. It was almost then a badge of honor. If you get your bell rung, you go to the sidelines, get some smelling salt, you go back in, and you're a tough player, right? Fortunately, the game has changed now, and they understand, what kind of impact concussions can have.
Yeah.
Lasting impact. Darrell, your wife Stephanie played volleyball at the University of Iowa, and you've got 4 kids who are all very, very talented athletes. As a father of athletes, did you coach your kids, or did you cheer them on from the sidelines?
Well, I married right, number 1. Yeah, that was the goal. I married right. I coached our kids I coached some baseball, I coached some basketball, and then I was basically required to coach football. My wife said, there's no way that you, the so-called expert, is going to talk about football and technique and leverage and all these things every Saturday for the last 14 or 15 years, and then let some guy who plays video games potentially coach your kid. So I did coach football. I enjoyed it. I coached both of my boys. I coached for like 5 years. I think 3 years with one, and well, actually 6 years. I think three with each of my boys, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. I think that you can have fun, and I tried to make it light. And my goal, quite honestly, with coaching was teaching. I was really excited when young men understood what the other team was trying to do to them, and I think it allowed us to have a competitive edge. You want to have the fastest guy and the biggest guy and the toughest guy, but I said, usually when you know what someone's trying to do to you, you can win. And I think that was one of the things that was fun. I think that was, our guys were always like, oh, I said, no, I said, if you know where they're trying to go and why this guy's trying to do this to you, I said, and you kind of go stand in the way, then all your friends come and help you knock this other guy down. I said, we can be successful. And that was my goal. I loved coaching defense. I ended up kind of on the defensive side of the ball my last, I think, 3 or 4 years of coaching football. And I kind of knew what offense liked to do and what the brain of the offensive player was kind of thinking. I said, if we can not let them get where they want to get, and we can squeeze the field down, we can have some fun.
You bet. I'm sure as coaching your kids and coaching youth sports, you see a lot of different coaches, and you've had many at all levels. Current Minnesota Gopher football coach P.J. Fleck is more of the rah-rah type, and you've played for Lindy and Fonnie in Green Bay, and Glenn Mason, and you've seen others like Tom Osborne, and others like that who have a different style. What, in your mind, makes a great coach, and is the rah-rah style, is that effective in your mind in today's college football game or pro football game?
I think it's effective. It depends. I think one of the interesting things about Coach Fleck is he's a good coach. Like when I look at their team, they're penalized less than any other team under the last probably 4 or 5 years. They play a disciplined style of offense. It's kind of like fundamental, hand it off, we're going to fake it, then we're going to toss it. So I mean, it's not as his personality is kind of, I wouldn't call it, he's out there. So he's energetic, he's recruiting, he's talking, but his offensive style is kind of fundamental. We're going to hand the ball off, we're going to hang on to it, we're going to play straight up, tough, hard-nosed defense, and we're not going to make mistakes. If we don't kill ourselves, we've got a chance. So Coach Fleck's style is kind of new, and it's also, if you know, I feel like I know why he's doing it to recruit. He wants people to be like, you know what, we went to Valley Fair, and we went out to the lake, and we're barbecuing, and we're at the steak joint, and we're like, so all these things are like, and then it's all on our it's Twitter, Facebook, I don't know, whatever, all the social media stuff. So it's like, oh, this place they got it all. They got corporate 500 companies. They got an athletes village. They're at the state fair. Look how much fun they're having. I just got to be in Minnesota because Coach Fleck is young. He's exciting. He's handsome. All that. I say, hey, so there's a, I wouldn't call it madness, but there's a method to his high energy recruiting, because it's really about recruiting. Then when you get him in here, then he's actually he's very traditional, like what he does. And I like it. First, I didn't know we were going to spread it out and whip it all over. He goes, no. We're not trying to spread out and whip the ball over the place. We have a plan, and I think he and Coach Chirac and Rossi on defense say there's a lot more going on than it looks like. It's not just, hey, we're going to get fired up and we're going to run around the sideline and say, yeah, that's it. And I don't pay a ton of attention. I was like, okay, it's kind of cool, but it's not my deal. But that doesn't matter. Can I play football for him? Yeah. I just want to run. If you let me run, we're cool. So I'd be fine.
Sure.
Darrell, we're down to our last minute.
Yeah.
I've got some favorite memories of watching you play. I was in the stands when you went 98 yards. How about you? What are some of your favorite memories from playing for the Gophers or the Packers? Or John Marshall, for that matter?
Probably beating Michigan when I was a freshman. I didn't know how big a deal it was. I'm a freshman. I'm just starting. I got my shoulder separated during the game, so I'm a little after the game. I can't get my pads off, and guys are crying because we haven't beat Michigan for 15 or 16 years. We're at Michigan. They're ranked number 3, and I was like, isn't our goal to win every week? But I didn't know what those guys had gone through. They went through getting hammered by Nebraska to by 80 points at home. So I'm like, we're supposed to win. We're trying to win. I don't know why these guys are crying. So that's probably the highlight of my career, from a on the field, off the field, locker room, and response.
Terrific. Hey, what a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Billy Robb. Thank you, Darrell Thompson. And thank you for watching Behind the Game.